just because
It
I like the
starts off
great.
great.
Of the games, and I've heard good things about the first episode, so I'll probably check it out.
I would say, like, overall, the premise and the story is a concept worth checking out because it's cool enough. But I think it is going to end up being the performances and it's just the like general writing, etc. That's going to make this elevated. Because there was like one moment last night where
Pedro Pascal taking care of another little kid that needs his help.
He's back. Mando's back.
He's just the permanent daddy.
There was one moment where I was watching the pilot, and Bella Ramsey just had this one line, and it was like, it's literally one line, and it was a very simple kind of line, but the way that she did it with her face, with everything, I was like, holy fucking shit, dude. This like made me cry. And with this just being the first episode, there's enough stuff that happens in The Last of Us that is like emotionally tough. So it's probably going to be real good with this cast.
They do a great job, I would say, setting the tone with that first scene. You remember that first scene, Wilson? That like never existed in the games. So it's like it takes place in like 1970s, like a talk show. And
is this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, seeing that, I was like, this is not in the game, and is this too different? Does it change the tone? But no, it said it like perfectly.
Yeah, essentially, it's like these scientists are on this talk show. They're talking about like viral infections and epidemics and pandemics and things like that. And there's another guy that's like, well, I'm not interested in a pandemic. I'm interested in like a fungal infection that happens in humans.
Fungus among us.
Yeah, so fungus, like he's talking about, like he's predicting basically global warming could then benefit the fungus to then grow onto humans and then grow these cordyceps. And are you familiar with that?
To bring the fungus among us. Yeah.
Are you familiar with cordyceps, the concept of that?
What? No.
Okay.
I don't know.
In the game,
Maybe?
in the game, they kind of talk about, and you can look this up. It's a real thing that happens in nature, where these fungus spores infect an ant, and the ant basically is a zombie. And what the fungus does is it makes the ant move away from the colony, climb up to the highest point that it can, and then this little tendril that grows on the ant's brain leaches out of its skull, out of its head, and like releases a bunch of other spores, and then it gets carried off into the wind, and then it goes to infect, other places, and then the cycle happens over again. So that's essentially what the game is like these little things called cordyceps grow into humans and then eventually take a hold of the humans and then turn them into mindless plant fungus zombies. So like in the game, I remember them telling in like behind the scenes and things like that what they wanted to do is like make the creatures that you're fighting in the game kind of beautiful in their own weird natural way. Like they look like a Venus flytrap, like a really enticing like flower bloom almost, but then also like can grab you like a Venus flytrap and just suffocate you and then fill you with these cordyceps. So they're beautiful but dangerous and like unnerving because they're also humanoid. And I'm waiting because the first episode of the show didn't show any like of the infected that you fight in the game, or that you but they do follow the game, I would say, pretty faithfully, within like taking out some parts of like when you're kind of playing, like you're in control of your characters walking around doing things. They kind of just take the cutscenes from like the first hour of the game and put it, and it's basically the first episode. Which they do a pretty good job at, and they kind of show you the dynamic of the main character Joel and his kid, and then what happens before this infection happens, and then everything that happens, like the night that everything goes bad. It follows the game perfectly. I thought they were going to do something completely different, but I was like, oh, this is great. They're actually like, I remember this scene in the game, like specifically, like they drive by a burning house and they're like, oh, look at that. And I'm like, oh shit, that happened in the game.
Right.
And then all these other things, like there are some deviations, or they have a neighbor that they introduce that's an elderly lady that's like in a wheelchair, and she's kind of
That was creepy as fuck.
she's catatonic, and she's making fucking weird faces and blurred in a forced or a rack focus from one of the main characters. I was like, what the shit is she doing? What is she doing back there? Stop opening her mouth. But yeah, it's I'll play some for you, Bradshaw, if you want. Like I can spin it.
I don't give a fuck.
I can spin it. I can make you cry. I can make you laugh. I can I'll tickle you.
I can make you cry. I can make you laugh, dude. I can spin it, bro.
I can spin it.
I can spin it, bro. I don't care.
But yeah, I would suggest, even like if you get the inkling to just like Google or YouTube Last of Us Part 1 movie, and then people have edited all the stuff together into like a probably like a 4-hour long cutscene movie, but you could watch it and it would be a pretty easy to follow along narrative.
Right.
Yeah, the story is definitely not complicated whatsoever, which is nice because then with it being so simple, it allows for plenty of time for character development because you don't need to keep having these like big reveals or huge changes in relationships or anything. It's just
it's like The Walking Dead. It's like you're wanting to get to know these characters. You don't care about like the side stuff where it's like, oh yeah, there's infected people out there, and that's just like a natural, like that's a hazard that they have to deal with, and it kind of makes the group dynamic worse, right? But it's all about these characters. Like it's 20 years, like it takes place 20 years after this fungal infection, and people are they have to learn to live in this apocalypse now. So that's like it makes the dynamics of all these character interactions interesting. If it was like, oh, what's the mystery in this episode? Like there is none of that. It's like, oh, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just you follow these characters.
why is the
attacked.
infection happening? Who released the mushrooms?
Mario, what are you doing here?
Oh, Mario! Somebody released the mushroom spores into the air.
Well, Luigi, we're gonna have to go out and find who changed the mushrooms.
What are we talking here? Shiitake? Poblano? What are these mushrooms?
What, little caplets? Amanita?
We talking about Amanita here?
We talking about psilocybin? What the hell, Luigi? What are you talking about?
I don't know, Mario, but we gotta do something about the mushrooms. There's no more people around. I think it's just you and me.
Luigi,
Why
hold on.
didn't-
Are you saying we're the last of us?
We the last of us, Luigi?
We saying we're some kind of suicide squad or something, Luigi?
Oh God, dude.
You're making me want Pedro Pascal to be Mario.
No, he should be Waluigi.
That too. He
Because
can
then
play both.
Think about it.
So Pedro Pascal only plays dads now. Okay.
Yeah, dude, make Waluigi a fucking dad. Who cares? Because you
Make
gotta
him a
make him
dad.
a counter
Make
to
Waluigi
everything
a dad. Who
Luigi
cares?
is. Luigi is cowardly. He's soft. He's weak. You make Pedro Pascal as Waluigi.
Luigi,
You make
you're
him
soft.
sexy as hell.
Like
Make
Mamma
him
Mia's
just brash.
pizza crust.
He's like, hey, I got a kid. Cause yeah, I fuck.
Yeah. Mario, you didn't know?
And
I fucked.
Luigi's like, I'm going to kiss Daisy for the first time. He's like, bro, haven't you been married for like 20 years? Yeah.
I like this other world we're building with this mushroom infection. And Mario's there. Getting pissed at his brother for not sealing the deal. But yeah, I would say if you have the means, Bracho, get on that Last of Us train so you're not the last of them watching it.
Oh, you so funny. Yeah. No, I'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this whole season, I would say, what they said is that it's just going to cover the first game. So
I mean, that would make sense.
I would like them to do that, because then that leaves them open to like just do stuff before maybe like they jump to like the part 2, like the game that comes after the first one. So maybe they'll do something in between that.
I know that this season they will be incorporating stuff from the DLC for the first game, which was a flashback into the backstory of Ellie.
Yes, that I know. I've seen little snippets of that too.
But that makes sense, like narratively.
And it was part of the first game too, in a way.
Yeah, and I feel like even if they only do this one season, knowing where game 1 leads into game 2, they can still incorporate things from game 2 to make that might like set the seeds to make it more narratively like cohesive at the end.
Yeah, and make it more dramatic.
Because they're like locations. There's like a location like Jackson, I think it's called, that's like you hear about it the whole first game about how it's like a refuge, it's peaceful, people can live there, but you don't actually get to physically see that place until the second game, and it's becomes even more important in the second game. So maybe I do believe that that's like an example of like a location we'll visit in the show that wasn't fleshed out until the second game, but they're doing it in the show because they know that it's like leading there, so it helps to introduce it earlier instead of having to wait until the second season.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what they could do after this season, and like maybe where they would go with it if they don't just jump right into the second game story. Because I think
Bella Ramsey had great Ellie energy.
She had good Ellie energy, but I really like the Joel interpretation too. Like it's reminiscent, but it's also, you know, when you're playing as Joel, like I do things differently maybe than what you would do playing as Joel. So like, would I spend all my crafting materials to make this, or you know, I'd make those decisions, whatever, and I wouldn't think like, oh, this is adding to his character depth, or
this is adding something that I want to see how they tackle that, like some more of the game mechanical stuff.
Oh,
if
like, they do, that
Joel and Ellie are going to be crafting ammunition and doing this and that and like stuff that they do in the game all the time.
Well, they did feature her switchblade that she popped out, and she's definitely going to use that to stab some dudes other than who she did in the first episode.
When that guard was taking a piss, I was like, oh, are they literally introducing like stealth kills?
Yeah, I mean, good, I want to see some of those things that kind of harken back to like those gameplay moments, like, oh, Ellie can't swim. That was a big part of the game. Are they going to then show that she can't swim and have her jump on a pallet and then have Pedro like swim the pallet over to another part where she can walk? Because that was like a big like puzzle solving, or like, yeah, an environmental puzzle that you had to like get her across this water using floating pallets and things like that. So maybe they'll do something like that, because that would make it more interesting. Like, oh, he's really got to protect this girl, right? And she can't swim. And so how are they going to tackle that that issue or that challenge? But yeah, I'm happy with Bella Ramsey as Ellie. Like, I think she's doing awesome. A lot of people are kind of conflicted if they. I don't know
why. I thought she was wonderful.
Yeah, she had that complete like, you motherfuckers, like, I hate you, and she's kind of goofy too. Like,
yeah,
she makes some sly remarks, like.
Not just like, she's definitely a teenager and has attitude, but she's not just a shitty teenager. She actually has some charm to her and like a sweetness that you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, she's endearing a little bit. She's got some. she can come back with some good quips, you know.
Yeah, seeing her and Pedro Pascal playing off each other is going to be a lot of fun.
Yep, when she figured out his code for like the radio, I was like, "Ooh, I've solved your code." And he's like, "Whoa, hold on now. What you got to understand is shit." But yeah, The Last of Us is definitely it's surprising, especially like I said about the beginning where they jumped way back in time when this guy predicted a global epidemic after the world got warmer. You know, that was like, oh, creepy. That kind of sets the tone. It sets the mood.